But what happens when the blinding lights of fame collide with the cold, hard shadows of reality? When a hero, once celebrated on a million screens, finds himself cornered not by a linebacker, but by a blade in the dark. In the world of celebrity, the fall is always faster than the rise, and for Mark Sanchez, one fateful night in Indianapolis would become his ultimate test. The universe has a funny way of reminding us that beneath every jersey, behind every microphone, beats a fragile human heart, vulnerable to the same fears that haunt us all. Pause the night of October 12, 2025, began like any other for Mark Sanchez, fresh off a broadcast. The former NFL star and now a respected Fox Sports analyst was navigating the familiar post-game buzz of Indianapolis. The city air, crisp with the promise of late autumn, carried the distant echoes of cheers and the hum of traffic. But as the clock ticked past midnight, the energy of the city began to shift. The stars above, usually a comforting canopy, seemed to hold their breath, sensing a disturbance in the cosmic balance. In the labyrinthine streets, where shadows danced and whispered secrets, a confrontation was brewing. An altercation, sharp and sudden, pierced the quiet of the early morning hours. Details are shrouded in the fog of conflicting reports, but one thing became terrifyingly clear: a knife was drawn. In that chaotic moment, the man who had once commanded stadiums, who had faced down 300-pound linemen with unshakable poise, was struck. A searing pain, a shocking realization this wasn't a game. This was real. The news broke like a dam. First a trickle of rumors on social media, then a flood of unconfirmed reports. Was it true? The Mark Sanchez, the charismatic quarterback who led the Jets to back-to-back AFC Championship games. The airwaves crackled with uncertainty. Blurred images and frantic eyewitness accounts painted a chaotic scene. Flashing red and blue lights sliced through the darkness, their strobing effect creating a nightmarish tableau. The digital town square erupted. Hashtags trended, keyboards clattered, and a million amateur detectives began piecing together the fragmented puzzle. Speculation ran rampant, fueled by the vacuum of official information. The public reaction was a storm of shock, disbelief, and morbid curiosity. Blurred screenshots of social media feeds captured the digital chaos prayers and well-wishes, crashing against waves of judgment and suspicion. News headlines, stark and bold, announced the fall from grace. NFL star stabbed. Sanchez involved in late-night brawl. The narrative was being written in real time, a story of violence and vulnerability that overshadowed a decade of athletic achievement. The world watched, captivated and horrified, as the incident spiraled from a personal crisis into a public spectacle. The tension was palpable, a heavy cloak of uncertainty that settled over fans and critics alike, each waiting for the next shocking revelation. The wail of a siren is a sound that cuts through the mundane, a harbinger of crisis. For Mark Sanchez, it was the soundtrack to his descent. The ambulance, a beacon of hope and dread, carved a path through the Indianapolis streets, its destination the sterile, unforgiving corridors of a hospital emergency room. The orderly chaos of the ER is a world away from the manicured turf of an NFL field. Here, the stakes are not touchdowns and trophies, but life and limb. The bright, clinical lights offered no comfort, only a harsh illumination of his new reality. As medical staff worked to treat his wounds, another kind of emergency was unfolding just outside. A different set of flashing lights pulsed against the hospital walls, those of police cruisers. The gears of justice were beginning to turn. The victim, in a cruel twist of fate, was now a suspect. The universe, it seems, loves irony. The very forces that arrived to render aid were also there to enforce the law. While doctors tended to his physical injuries, investigators began to piece together the events that led him there. The news of his impending arrest sent shockwaves through his fan base and the sports world at large. The man who had been a symbol of hope and potential for the New York Jets, whose career stats over 15,000 passing yards, a testament to his talent, were now just a footnote to a police report. The public outrage was swift and divided. Blurred images on social media showed a torrent of conflicting emotions. Some fans rallied in support, refusing to believe the worst of their former hero. Others felt betrayed, their admiration curdling into disappointment and anger. The court of public opinion convened instantly, delivering verdicts long before a real judge would ever hear the case. For Sanchez, the hospital room became a cage, the four drip a constant reminder of his physical and legal jeopardy. The walls, thin and sterile, couldn't block out the noise of the world judging him. Fame, the magical force that had lifted him to unimaginable heights, had now become a magnifying glass, amplifying his every flaw and misstep for the world to dissect. He was no longer just a patient. He was a headline, a cautionary tale, a symbol of something broken. There is a unique and profound loneliness that follows a public fall from grace. It's a silence so loud it deafens. In the aftermath, as the physical wounds began to heal, the deeper psychic injuries remained. Imagine a silhouette sitting in a darkened room, the city lights outside blurring into a watercolor of indifference. The world moves on, but for the one at the center of the storm, time freezes. The roaring crowds are replaced by the quiet hum of a refrigerator. The triumphant roar of the stadium is supplanted by the whisper of self-damn. This is the emotional exile, a place far more isolating than any prison cell. Visuals of a gathering storm, of dark clouds rolling over a once bright skyline, serve as a metaphor for the turmoil within. Each flicker of a distant streetlight is a memory, a what if, a moment replayed 1,000 times. The path to this night was paved with immense pressure, the kind that only those who live under the relentless glare of the public eye can ever truly know. It's a world where every action is scrutinized, every mistake amplified, where the weight of expectation can feel like a physical burden. This wasn't just about one bad decision on one dark night. It was the culmination of a life lived on a knife's edge, a constant balancing act between a public persona and a private self. The universe tests its strongest souls with the heaviest burdens, and in that solitude, a choice must be made: succumb to the darkness, or find the strength to endure the storm, to believe that even the longest night must eventually yield to dawn. Every story has its closing chapter, every storm its eventual calm. As the sun rises over an empty stadium, its golden rays spilling onto the silent, hallowed ground, we are reminded of the cyclical nature of life. The field that once hosted epic battles and heroic moments now lies quiet, a monument to glories past and a symbol of new beginnings. The story of Mark Sanchez's Night of Reckoning is not simply a tale of a celebrity in crisis. It is a mirror reflecting our own complexities, our own capacity for both greatness and error. It forces us to look beyond the scoreboard and the highlight reel, to see the person behind the persona. The universe whispers its truths in these moments of quiet reflection. It teaches us that vulnerability is not a weakness, but a fundamental part of the human condition. It reminds us that judgment is easy, but empathy is profound. Behind every headline is a human story, a tapestry woven with threads of triumph, failure, fear, and hope. Fame is a fleeting illusion, but the lessons it teaches are eternal. As we fade from this story, let us carry with us not a sense of judgment, but a deeper understanding of the fragile, powerful, and unpredictable journey of being human.